Okay, guys. Tonight we're going to step back a little bit. After my last video on sending HTML emails from SQL, I got a couple emails from people saying that they didn't know HTML. And in that video, I said that I assumed that everybody knew HTML, and evidently they don't. So, to that end, I thought I would teach a little basic HTML for DBAs. This will just, be a small primer, and I'm sure we'll add to it. As things go on, we'll be able to add to it and build your HTML skills. I think that HTML is extremely important for DBAs to know for, the very reasons that I specified in the last video. Right? I mean, look at that last video on sending HTML emails. If you want to send any kind of aggregated alerts in your emails, you're almost going to have to use HTML to format it. So, I mean, even from a practical standpoint, you should be able to code, basic HTML just to get some basic formatting, so you can send out, really cool emails like that, right? So, I really don't have a plan tonight. I haven't written anything down to say this is what we're going to talk about and this is what I'm going to cover. I'm going to explain a little bit about what HTML is, and then I'm going to show you some examples, and we're going to talk about a few tags, and after that, I guess we'll just call it quits, right? So, to start off, what is HTML? HTML is what's known as an interpreted language, as opposed to a compiled language. So a compiled language would be like C#, C, C++, right? VB, Java. An interpreted language is something that doesn't get compiled. It has tags that are called markup, and a program comes along that you open this file in, and a program comes along that knows how to read these tags, and it knows what to do with them. It knows how to deal with them appropriately. But the page itself, the code in the page itself, is always stored in clear text. So there's never anything, there's never anything to compile. There's never anything to decompile. It's just, you write it and that's it, right? And HTML files have a certain format, and they have to be more or less what we call well formed, right? And we'll talk about that. The HTML rule isn't as strict as XML, but you should still have well-formed HTML. I mean, I've written hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of HTML pages in my day, and I've gotten away with some malformation and nothing really balked at it that much. But sometimes it will. Sometimes you can have a problem in a table and it'll manifest itself in some weird way, and you look over there and find out you forgot to close a tag or something. So, that's what HTML is. Now, what is this program? What types of programs can view HTML? Well, everybody knows that, right? Things like Internet Explorer, Firefox, Mozilla, right? Your web browser is, basically a big HTML interpreter. I mean, that's what it does, is it reads and parses HTML. And even when you get into the scripting languages like ASP Classic, that uses JavaScript and ASP.NET and whatnot, it still knows what to do with those language specifications. It knows what to do with those. Some things like ASP and ASP.NET you can't run on your local box. At least you can't just click on them and have them open up and do something. You have to run them through an actual parser like IIS that actually knows how to handle scripting files, server-side scripting files and stuff. I mean, you can't just, take an ASP file and double-click on it and have it, interpret and actually do what it's supposed to do. You would just get the text. You'd have to actually go through a website have to actually go through a website in IIS or something first. So with that in mind, let's look at how we have to form an HTML. Now, I'm in Notepad, and you don't need anything special to edit an HTML, to author an HTML. You can author it and edit it in any basic text editor. We use Notepad a lot. I'm going to start in Notepad. So, okay, so the first thing you have to do is you have to classify it as HTML, right? That's easy. That's your head. It tells the interpreter that it's HTML. Now, these little things right here, these little brackets right here, okay, these are what are known as tags. Okay, this is an opening HTML tag. Almost every opening tag has a closing tag, and I say almost because there are a couple exceptions. Every tag you open, you have to close. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and close this one. Oops, there we go. So / or whack HTML is the closing tag for this opening tag. Okay, so anything that goes in between here is what is going to be interpreted as HTML. So HTML has there are a couple other things it needs, and white space means absolutely nothing, right? I mean, I could do this HTML here, and I could do the closing tag, 72,000 pages down, or I could do it over here. It doesn't really matter. It ignores white space completely. So, the only formatting we do is for us, so that we can read the code better. So the next thing you need to do in an HTML is you need to have a head. Good. So I'll go ahead and close that. I like to close my tags right away so that I don't forget to close them. And then inside of there, you have a title. Right? Now this title is what's going to be is what the window on the the browser is going to read. Okay, and we'll show you that in a minute. We'll just call this Sean's title. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's look at well formed here. As long as we've got this, so you've got a body tag, and you've got a closing body tag. So everything that you want to display on the page is going to go in between these two body tags. Okay, we've got the opening tag and the closing tag. So everything you want to be on the page itself goes in between there. And remember, I said anything that goes in between these guys is going to be interpreted as HTML, right? So everything inside of here is HTML. Everything inside of here is body. Well, what if I took this guy and put him down there, outside of the HTML? The start of body is inside HTML, and the end tag is outside of the HTML end tag. That's called poorly formed or malformed, right? That is not a well-formed HTML document. Tags have to begin and end inside the tags that they started in. So we'll take this guy and put him back up here. Okay, so right now we'll just do the classic, huh? Hello world. We'll do that. So we need to go ahead and save our document. Let's put our document on. Let's put it on C. I think that'll be good enough. Put that on C. Notice how it wants to save it as text. We'll just save it as. Now you can save this as HTML or HTML. They're both the same. We'll do HTML because I'm a lazy typist. Good. So we've got that. Now we will come here. Where is it? Right there. Okay. And there it is. So now if I just double click on this guy, like that, I got my hello world, right? Excellent. So it's as easy as that. We've written our first HTML page, and you notice here is my title, right? That's where the title goes. If let's minimize that. If I change this, let's say my second title, right? Then I can come back here, hit F5 to refresh, and you notice how now I've got the second title document here. So it works out well, right? Okay. So now with that in mind, now that we've started this and I've shown you that you can write HTML in a simple text editor, I'm going to move to a real editor because it has better stuff, right? So this is Primal Script, and you see here I'm on Primal Script Enterprise, and it's actually one of my favorite HTML editors. I love this tool. It's an excellent script editor, and I use it all the time, especially for HTML. The other one I use it a little bit less, but the other one I use is Dreamweaver, and you know, I have no major problems with it. I think sometimes it's a little bit heavy for the stuff I want to do. Sometimes you just want to open up a script editor real quick and edit something and then get back out. So let's go ahead and open the file that we just started in. Come on. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so now we have our nice color-coded tags here, right? Okay, so we've got Hello World. Let's say that I wanted to do, and again, we're going to stair-step this, right? So I'm going to show you how tags work. Let's say that I want to do something with this. Let's say that I want Hello World to actually be a real title. Okay, so let's put it in the middle up here instead. So let's center it as a title. Well, that's easy enough. Oops. I can center it. I just have to move this tag down here. There we go. Now, mind you, this could all be on one line, right? I could say that and that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'll say that. I tend to like to line mine up from top to bottom. It makes it easier to read for me. But other people like to do it this way, so, you know, pick your favorite and go with it, right? Control S and save. Come down here, F5 to refresh, and now I've centered it. Fair enough? And now I'll come here, and let's make it bigger. We've got what we call heading tags, right? And I'll show you. Let's start with H1 because it's really big. H1. And remember, I have to close it, right? Ah, it did already. Another reason why I like to do things on separate lines. There we go. And you notice this is well formed, right? I've got the center tags right here, the opening tag and the closing tag, that surround the H1 opening tag and the H1 closing tag. This would be malformed to put H1 closing tag outside of the center closing tag. Since this one's inside the opening tag, this one has to be inside the closing tag. Fair enough? Control S to save, F5 to refresh, and now I've got a big Hello World. That's heading 1, okay? That's H1. I can change that to H2, and they just go down in size, basically. So now I go from this to this, right? And there are 5 of these. I'll go ahead and skip ahead and show you 5. H5, H5. There we go. And then you get the really small one, right? So, and we can do this very nice. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you a break tag, right? So that's a break tag, and it's one that doesn't have an opening and a closing because it's a line break. It tells you to go to the next line, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this guy, like that, and we're going to say 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, and 1. So after each one of these, and you can see we're increasing in size, right? This goes from the smallest to the largest. After each one of these, we have a line break. So it's going to go down to the next line and center the next one. You'll see what I mean. There you go. That's exactly what we're going to get, that nice fly-in effect, right? And we could reverse that as well and take it down, but I kind of like this one. So we're saying, hello world, hello world, hello, hello world, right? It's our coming out party. So, okay, so we've got that. Now, give me some more space here to work. Now let's say that I wanted some text to be, we'll just say this is text that I want to put on the screen. So we've got that. Let's just go ahead and look at it. There we go. So I've got text that I want to put on the screen. And this is a basic web page, right? I mean, you could put this on the web. I mean, why would you? But still. Now let's do something with this. Let's look at some formatting options for this guy. Of course, we could wrap it in our H tags. Absolutely, right? But we could also, let's make it bold. So we'll come here. There we go. Let's make it bold. There, it's bold. And just to show you the difference, come here, do that. So there's my line break again. There you go. So I've got one text that's bold, one text that's not. Okay. Let's say I want to, let's see, copy that, put it in italics, right? So I put it in italics. You notice I'm going to need a break tag here, right? There, I've got it in italics. Let's say I want to underline it. I'm going to need that. There we go. So now I've got it underlined. So you get the idea. I mean, HTML, basic HTML really isn't hard at all. It's actually pretty easy to spit one thing out on the screen and just format it. There's not really too much to that. And there are lots more tags, and you know, there are HTML references all over the internet. So I'm not going to sit here and give you every single tag. This is just a basic this is just a video to show you the basics of how these things work, so that you know what you're doing when you go look up those other tags. And it's really interesting to go look at the different tags, because I had been doing this for a few years, and been doing an awful lot with HTML, and came across a site that had a tag I had never seen before, and I was like, wow, I really thought I would have seen that by now, but oh well. So there are all kinds of tags you can do. You can force different fonts. You can force different colors. You can do all types of things. Almost anything you want to do, you can do. And then you start getting a dynamic HTML and start throwing in JavaScript, and then you can do anything you want to do. So let's see, what else can we show you? Let's see, we've got the screen. Oh yeah, let's say you've got some longer text, and you want to. Well, let's go ahead and before we do that. Get over here. Let's go ahead and put a break tag there. And let's say this is really long text. And we'll take that, and we'll copy it, and we'll just okay. That's not too bad. Let's see what we got. Okay, that's excellent. Now let's say that somewhere along the way here, I wanted to make this, I wanted to format this a little bit better. Okay, I wanted to actually, I wanted to break this off into two separate pieces. Sure, I could do it this way. I could go, let's put it here. Go break, and I broke it, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing spectacular either, right? So, and given where you do it, you know, you might run into the wraparound anyway. So here, and so there you go. So, since this is wrapping around, see, I'm not really getting a tremendous effect here. But if I do this, if I put these in paragraph tags, then it's going to define each one of these as a paragraph. And let's see here, let's stop it there. Right? And then I'll put the rest of this in a paragraph tag. There we go. So I've got open paragraph, close paragraph. Ought to be okay. There we go. See, now I get two definite paragraphs that are very, very succinct. They're definitely separate paragraphs. And the thing that differentiates paragraphs is not only does it do exactly what you tell it to, right? But you can add styles to paragraphs. Okay, you can do some really cool stuff. Okay, so what can you do with this? With the paragraph tag, you can assign it styles, and that's something that you can't do with a break tag, right? So you can assign it pretty much any styles you want, and you can do it on a per paragraph basis. Now, the way I'm going to show you now is the basic HTML way, and I think it's the way I did it in that last video, but you could certainly assign style sheets, or you could do inline, or you could do styles in your header, right? But right now, before we get into, I mean, we're not going to get into those types of styles tonight, but what we are going to do is we're going to get into what we call inline styles, right? So here, you define a style equals, and let's say, oh God, what do we want to do? Let's give it a width, because let's say that I want it to be shorter than that. So we'll say width equals single quotes, and let's say I want it to be 200 pixels. There we go, 200 pixels. That's not a very good one, but you know. And you can increase it to whatever you want. Now the cool thing is it accepts more than that. Let's say I want it to be 50% of the page. There we go, 50% of the page, right? Excellent. And along with 50% of the page, let's change the background color to, oh, let's say gray. Is that how you spell gray? Let's see. Okay, good. So I got gray. And as long as I got that, let's change, and you notice there's a semicolon in between each one of these styles. Let's change font color, which is just color, colon, to yellow. There we go. So now you've got some formatted text as well. So this is actually pretty easy, right? And especially for something like an alert email, this is perfectly respectable HTML. I mean, you can, inside your alert email, we didn't do it, but you could branch it off and create these styles on the fly based off of whatever data you've got coming in, especially if it's PowerShell. Or if it's SQL. I can't remember if we've done the PowerShell one yet or not. No, we haven't done the PowerShell one yet, but we have done the SQL one, and you can easily create those different styles based off of different branching, right? So, you know, if statements or case statements or whatnot, right? So, this is already looking pretty good. I mean, it's a basic HTML page, and there's not much more to it. Let's go ahead and I'll show you how to do tables, and then we'll call it a night. How's that? So we'll take all that off. I kind of like the Hello World Center, so we'll leave that there. Alrighty. So now we're going to learn how to do a table, and oddly enough, it starts with a table tag. Now, inside a table, you have rows and you have columns, right? So the first thing you have to do is you have to define a row. Table row. And inside that table row, you have to define a column. So TD, I forget what D stands for. Probably domain. So probably table domain. And anything that's inside that domain tag is what's going to show up inside the cell. So if I have something here like, let's say, column 1, okay, and then I want to do another column, 2 more columns, column 2 and column 3. You see here I have column 1, 2, and 3. And if I want to do another row, all I would have to do now is create a table row, but I'm gonna just duplicate all of this. I like to put a space in there between my rows so I can see which one is which. And I'll just say 1A, 2A, 3A. So this is a table row, right? I've got a row beginning tag and a row end tag with my column tags in between. And I've got another row tag and a closing row tag. So I'm going to have 2 rows of data here, just like that. Very simple, very easy, right? So what do you think would happen if I wanted to center my table, right? There we go. Bring it down here. Now I can center my table. And you see how this is just building and building and building, right? So, and tables also have styles, right? You can give tables whatever styles you want as well. So if we wanted to give this thing a style, oddly enough we do it the same way. Let's see, what does this need? Maybe needs let's do a border 1, that's the thickness of the border. Now you have to set the style. Border, let's see, is it border type? No, it's border, is it border style? I think it's border style. We'll say solid. And let's go there and see if we got it right at least. There we go. So we got us a solid border style. And let's give it a color. Blue. There we go. Let's increase the thickness a little bit. Give it 3. There we go. And I mean, you can get, 10, right? I mean, you can go all out and have a really thick border. And you can change your style and whatnot, but we'll go with 2. 2's a nice, not 12, 2. 2's a nice border. There we go, nothing wrong with that. Now, usually when you see these things, you see the columns inside little squares like you do in Excel, right? So what's usually going to happen there is we'll take this style and we'll put that in the rows, in the columns. Now this isn't the best way to do styles for obvious reasons, because if you need to make a change, you have to make it everywhere. But there we go, and now I've given myself a little double border there, right? And I can take this one away. There we go, just like that, right? So you can give yourself borders so that you can see what you're doing. Now, it's okay to use this stuff. There's there's been a big push on the internet for a long time to use style sheets and whatnot, and to get away from tables. When you're doing basic stuff like this, tables work just fine. You can nest tables, you can put tables inside of tables, inside of tables, inside of tables, and that's when you start to run into problems, right? But just doing basic stuff like this, I'm just showing you how this stuff gets put together, right? Let's see if there was something else I wanted to show you on that one. Just to explain it, in case I didn't explain it at all before, the style attributes go inside the opening tag, and then they just go inside a style. So style equals parentheses, and then you just start putting your styles. You put a semicolon in between the styles, between the style name and the attribute. You put a semicolon, and like I said, separate them with semicolons, and you're good to go. And you can cut and paste these things all you want. Maybe next time I'll show you how to do this all in one thing with style sheets, or at least with header styles, and that way you can define classes and you can do all this, so you only have to change it in one place, right? Let's see, I can't think of too much more that you need to know. Okay, well, let's do this. One last thing, because the problem that we have here is we don't know what these things are. What's column 1, column 2, and column 3, right? So we need to define some headers, and that's always really useful, is to define headers. So we'll come here and say table header, and our first table header will be header 1. Yeah, I'm not in a very imaginative mood tonight. So you're going to have a header column for every column that you have. Header 2 and header 3. There we go. And that's going to give you your headers. And these headers, of course, are subject to, whatever whatever formatting you want as well, in the same ways. You can do other types of formatting. You can say H5, right, inside your headers. Stop that. There we go. So we'll just say H5. I'll fix that in a minute. And then H5. I'll drag this guy over here. Drag this guy over there. And again, just like above, up here, you notice how the H5 is inside the table header tag. So when I come here now, I get, a format. So I can separate it like that. I can do all types of things. Inside these tags, you can put anything inside these tags, right? Anything at all. Let's say I wanted to change H5. Get rid of that. This will be the last thing we do, guys. There we go. I'll just show you one. How's that? Let's say I wanted to underline the header name. There we go. I've got one of them underlined, right? So I could go underline the other ones if I want. And I can make them bold and italics, and I can make them, different colors. I can do anything I want almost with the header as well. I can make them links. I can do almost anything I want. But since I said this was the last thing we were going to do, then that's the last thing we're going to do. I just thought, hey, I could show you how to do links and images. We'll do links and images next time. How does that sound? We'll break this up a little bit. So that's very, very, very basic HTML for DBAs. For those of you who know absolutely nothing about HTML, this will get you started. HTML is a lot easier than people make it sound. It's a lot easier than you think it is. And it's very, very useful, especially in sending alert emails and putting up basic web pages with different stats on them. Once you start getting into dynamic data, it's a little bit more difficult, and it can be pretty tricky. But the basic concepts of HTML never change. Even in .NET 3.5, the basic concepts of HTML still remain the same. It's still an interpreted language, and all of that stuff that you're doing in ASPX, in VB, or in C#, all it's doing is it's getting interpreted when the call goes through IS. It's getting interpreted as HTML, and it's being shot to your screen as HTML. So, don't worry about don't worry about the technology changing on you, or the fact that because all you know is basic HTML, you don't know, you're not going to be useful because you're needing to code in something else. the basic constructs of HTML haven't changed in, Jesus, 15 years, okay, 20 years. I forget how long it's been, but it's been a long time, okay? I started with HTML back in 95, I think, and, you know, the basic things, these things that I'm showing you now have been around since then. I mean, that's how long that's how long we've been coding in HTML, and all of this stuff is standard HTML. It hasn't changed. So, with that in mind, good luck, and I'm going to stop here.